You know that feeling you get when you spend even a little bit of time outside? No matter how challenging it is to get out there, spending time in nature is always worth it. I'm your host, Amy Bouchatz, and this is another episode of Humans Outside. Join me as we hear from fascinating outdoor-minded guests and use the Humans Outside 365 Challenge to push us outside daily. Ready to hear from experts and outdoor lovers who make heading into nature just a part of who they are while we work to do the same? Let's go. Sure, going outside makes us all feel better. We know that. I mean, all you have to do is head outside a few times and you start to notice it. But as you dive a little deeper into this outdoor journey, you might notice spending time outside makes you notice that you're having better feelings focused on how you feel about you. Maybe you're doing something solo for the first time and feel safe in a new way. Maybe you manage to walk or hike a distance you've never before done and you're feeling empowered. Maybe you have watched a mountain or a tree and found a fresh perspective on how you fit into the world. All of those things and more play into self worth. And there's something today's guest, Scott Tatum, learned about himself through his own outdoor journey. Today, he shares those takeaways through his own podcast, The Self Care Savage, through his social media, where he posts self worth messages, and in his new related book, Friendly Reminders. Today, Scott is going to talk about his own journey and self worth, what it is, why it matters, and how we can find it outside. Scott, welcome to Humans Outside.
Hey, Amy, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are so excited to have you. Thanks so much for doing this with us and sharing your journey and your insights. We start all of our episodes talking with our guests, imagining ourselves as if we're together with them in their favorite outdoor space. So, if we were hanging out with you somewhere outside that you love, where are we with you today?
Well, I tell you, so Colorado is my favorite state right now. I've spent the most time there, but I travel and I'm a lot on national forest lands. But one of my favorite spots is around Leadville, Colorado. And there's lots of national forest lands there. And I have some favorite campsites, one in particular, and it's close to the Colorado Trail and the Continental Divide Trail, kind of where they intersect and travel together. So that is probably one of my favorite spots. It looks over to the Twin Lakes area, and it's not many people know about it. And it is very calm, and I can park right underneath this tree. And depending on the weather, what's happening, there's a nice little fire. I can get going, and it gives me everything that I need for the outdoor, being in the outdoors and doing what I do mostly, which is a lot of solo activities. But I can do that anywhere, but that's a very, very favorite spot.
It's funny how, you can do these activities that you're describing anywhere you are and find that close to home or far away from home. But there are places that just speak to us in a
Mhm.
special way, whether it's some experience you had there internally to yourself that you remember now that you go back, or achieved something there, or it's just you found a special moment there and now that place calls to you and you just really love it and feel connected to it. I totally get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us, how did you become someone who likes to go outside? And tell us about your outdoor journey.
Well, my outdoor journey is probably a little bit different in the sense that where I really got into what I'm doing now is hiking. The outdoors saved my life. There was a time many years ago, 10 plus years ago, when I started on this journey of mine where I had given up on myself. I was living a pretty inappropriate, dysfunctional life and very victim mentality and just not taking responsibility. And I had just gotten to a place, I was just tired, I was exhausted. And I was driving around one day, fully engaged and feeling sorry for myself again. But I stopped by, there was a lake. So I pulled up to a lake, stopped and was kind of checking things out. But I saw a trailhead. I saw a sign and, the little map, there was a map up there and it was around this lake. And I was like, I'd be going to walk. I just thought, well, let's go check this out. I was just going to kind of walk up the trail a little bit. And I ended up there for, I mean, it's debatable how long I was there, but it did get dark. I started there and I never stopped. And I always tell people, it's not something like I was touched. it was just that everything got quiet other than what was around me to start, which was I could hear the breeze through the trees and I could hear the birds and I could hear the lake and I could, the water and I could hear myself walking. And that's all I was hearing. None of the world, not all that noise, all that. And then as I kept going, I was getting tired and I was just, I was not in shape to do any kind of long hike at that time. And so I started getting tired, and I didn't realize until a little bit later, but as I was getting tired is when I started then listening to what was in my head because I had kind of exerted myself. And that leads into a lot of what I talk about the outdoors when I promote it. And then I started listening and I started understanding what was going on in my head and I started being able to take it a little bit deeper. It wasn't pleasant and it wasn't fun, but too bad, too late because I was already happening. I had to still continue to walk back to my truck or do whatever.
Right.
And it wasn't like I was just in this situation. I didn't have my phone. All these things, and I don't even remember why. I don't remember if I had it on me. It wasn't on. There's just some things I don't remember about it because I got a little tranced out. But that's what started it, and again, I never stopped because it for some reason opened me up in so many different ways, and it's what I needed, so I never stopped. I kept
Yeah.
seeking it out and increasing it, and then to where I eventually immersed myself in it, and I basically travel and live in it.
There's lots of people who try to understand what that unlocking is, right? What the reason for that is scientifically or physiologically. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really
Mhm.
matter why. It just matters that it
Yep,
is and that you found that and that you can chase that and then focus on that part of it.
100%. This whole world for me was it ended up for a long time just being about me. And it's what I had to do. Again, it was the unlock, the flipping of my thought processes of just giving up, not wanting to participate in
Right.
anything anymore and going forward. And when I knew there's so much my background, I knew things I should have been doing or I needed to do because I have a very heavy psychology background. And I just would never flip it on myself. I was so stuck in this victim stuff. I just didn't want to let go of that. And but it's so ineffective. It's from survival skills I learned as a kid through my traumas. I was very skilled, had a large repertoire of survival skills before I was age 7. And when you don't heal and you don't forgive and go through these processes, even as you start getting into adulthood, you start your adulthood, that's how you handle things. It's how you handle
Mhm.
relationships, how you business with these survival skills that don't transfer into that part of your life. And this, so again, all of these things connect for me and where it went. And there was a lot of things that happened at that time, that moment, those hours, whatever they were, that just was like, there's something about this. And then it just started revealing itself as I continued.
Yeah. Before we dive into finding self care outside, maybe we can just define self care
Sure.
because that's what you're talking about. So, what is self care? Let's define it.
Well, self care for me, is doing anything and everything that I can do to make myself better. And that means better mentally, locking my mind down to where I control it. I do, again, everything I have to do to kill the demons that were running wild in my brain and controlling my moves. Things that came into my head were just constantly reinforcing that I was worthless. I had no self-worth.
Mm,
So self-care for me is putting myself in these positions now, and there's a lot of their non-negotiables and outdoors and all of those things around it are again non-negotiables to continue to build and strengthen my self-worth there's a connection there. And
Yeah.
it's
So
not
what is that? What is that connection? How is that linked?
self-care and self-worth.
Yeah.
Well, you have no self-worth if you're not working on it. Yeah, I mean, you have to engage in the things that bring you self-worth, put you again in those positions that give you confidence, that you're facing your fears. Whatever is going on with you, for me, it was again, it was facing myself and taking full accountability for my life and myself and understanding through that process how I was in control of things, which made me understand the things that I needed to do. So self-care gets a little mixed up. First, again, some people, this is not a criticism. And I think people see self-care as selfish. A lot of times it's you're selfish or I talk about putting yourself on the top of your own list, or taking care of yourself first. You teach people how to treat you. People are going to put you in the back of the line if you keep allowing people to go in front of you. All of these things are things that we hold on to. Well, what do you mean? I have kids. They're at the top of my list. I have to do that. But you can't, you just can't build your self-worth without all the levels and the stages of self-care, is
So
it?
I'm wondering if the journey of self-care and self-worth, how that plays into the world around you. Like, what is the point of that? How does this link with everything else?
So, I can't operate appropriately if I'm not taking care of myself. What happens with me is always been mostly in the most dramatic in the mornings when I wake up. And it's because of the way I live my life, constantly trying to be in complete and total freak out mode, waking up, trying to remember what I did the day before, a couple of days before that I need to cover up or make excuses for or do whatever I need to do, to recover from that and then still get through the rest of the day. It's just this cycle of just ridiculousness again, which anybody that's in your life, what victims do, victim mentalities do, they spew it all over everybody else. So when I interacted with people, it was usually if they pissed me off, I'd react out of anger. I would make sure that I was in a protective state, do the best I could to get them to understand it's their fault, not mine. Just all of these ways of thinking and doing things. So as I once started on this journey and with the outdoors and all these things started connecting, I started understanding that more. I couldn't do that being in an environment like cities and in a house where you hear the air going off or the cars going down the street, that the trash people that morning, and then just all the constantness around that. I could not do that. Self-care for me is where the self-care savage that I added the savage to, which I feel like I've coined. It's not anywhere I've been able to find it anywhere else, but I protect this. I'm ferocious about it. Go look up savage. It's not the most positive term, but if you pick out some words in
Mhm.
there, it's ferocious is one of 'em. And I protect this. I'm ferocious about it. No non-negotiables. I have to do the things that I do every morning. I have to kill the demons before I can move on with my day to do the work to be better for myself. So the ultimate goal is I can be better for everyone else. What parents do is they hold on to, well, I have to do this. I have to take care of my husband, my wife, my partner, my kids, my elderly parent. I have to do all these things. And so it's selfish to take that stuff for yourself. No, it's not. You know what's selfish is when you don't work on your self care. You don't put yourself, but you
Mhm.
know why? Because otherwise you're not being your best. So if you're a parent and that's your excuse, fine. Then what your excuse is, I'm not going to work on my self care. I'm just going to be a half ass parent. I'm not gonna be the best I can be for myself.
Mm.
That's how much it means to me, and that's how much I promote this. It's not criticism. People can do whatever they want with their life. For me, this is serious business. I do not want to go back to living the kind of life I lived, thinking the way I lived, benefited nobody, especially myself. I do not want to exhibit these and continue to exhibit these behaviors to my adult kids or grandkids in the future or business partners I have, friends, whoever comes into my life now. I'm not interested in living it and doing that way. It doesn't work. Never did. It was miserable. And I didn't even, I'm 62 now, did not even start this journey until I was north of 50. That's
Mm.
5 decades of living that way.
Yeah. You mentioned people sometimes think self-care is selfish. Do you think that they have a misunderstanding of what self-care can or should be, as
Mhm.
opposed to like I think like a narrow view in the I'm a military spouse and military caregiver space. We talk a lot about this particular problem that, oh, self-care, but we have visions of spa days and sort of these unachievable
Mm.
things. Taking naps. And not that any of those things are wrong,
No.
but they're limiting to me. So do you find that people have that same limited perspective on that?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When people ask me about this and people talk about that, so self care is to me is how just kind of explained it, went through it, and how serious
Mhm.
business.
Yeah.
What you talking about spa days, naps, doing things like that, to me, that's self maintenance. That's just hygiene. That's feeling good because your nails are done, or you like to go to the gym and work out, and you like because it makes you have a better body image. All of those things are just a lot of maintenance to that, which is all very appropriate. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of that. But that's not, to me, that's not self care. That's not something that moves the needle. Now, if you incorporate that and you incorporate the two and you're mixing them up and it's a lifestyle thing, then it can certainly become part of that. And I guess that's a lot the way it is for me. My self-care is my lifestyle. Being outside is my therapy. That's a big part of my therapy. It's again,
Mhm.
that's how I promote it, say it all the time. It's how I heal my mind, body, and my soul. And they all connect for me, the physical part, all that. But I see the spa days and all that kind of stuff is self-maintenance. And that's how I've helped people try to understand what it is. It's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it. A lot of it needs to happen for people to feel better, to then get into maybe doing the work. Self-care is doing the work. Self-care is
Mhm.
is connecting those dots about why you do this when you get stressed, which is detrimental to your relationship or your whatever you've got going on in your life. Well, stop. Where does it come from?
Mhm.
Let's maybe journal. Let's maybe try to connect the dots. Oh my gosh, it's what my mom used to always say to me. Well, travel back for a minute. This is not about going back and reliving stuff. This is about what's going on right now and go back and say,
Mhm.
you know what? That was my mom. I can visualize and now see her and I can understand that. You know what? It was 25 years ago. It
Yeah.
happened. It's over with. Is any of that hanging on to anger, not forgiving, feeling like a victim, blaming that way of your feeling. Now you know where it comes from. Well, guess what? That's all gone now. So if you want to hang on to it, now you're choosing to.
So self-care then in this framework is creating a space for a practice
Yes,
of consistently addressing and building your own
that's right.
value.
That's right. And again, that main core for me is the outdoors. That's where I
Yeah.
get it done. And nobody has to. I always tell people, of course, you don't have to do it like me. And what I have to deal with and what I need to do is going to be different than what you need to do. It's not going to be better. What I do now is I talk to people and I use my platforms to do everything to say, here's what I do. Here's what I've done. Here's what works for me. And I'm a firm believer in the outdoors for a lot of different reasons to try to get people to understand too, not just with what I'm saying, but take me out of the equation. Look at any of your medical professionals. I don't care if it's your primary doctor, it's a therapist, it's a life coach, it's a whatever it could be, any of those. And you're working with them, you're engaged with them or whatever level because you're having some issues. You want to get better, or you're having some challenges, or you need some motivation and need some help. Every one of those in the top three on the treatment plan, so to speak, and the top three things to help you move forward. One of those top three things in anything like that is going to be go outside. Get in nature,
Yeah.
be active, breathe air, take a minute, do some self reflect, meditate, whatever it is that works for you. And it's just that. It's scary though. Look, there's so many excuses to it. And I get it. I don't challenge people on their excuses other than I try to give them things to think about it and take away. I just try to help people take away their excuses. But, the outdoors is scary to a lot of people. It's the society now. There's no promotion of it in really in schools. Never any again, I think we're missing something to where we come from. I don't pretend to know. I just know that it works.
Time for a little break so I can tell you about the Humans Outside 365 Challenge. Want help building your own outdoor habit, some cool swag, and even a finisher medal? The Humans Outside 365 Challenge is a great way to get started. Get outside every day for a year with exclusive help. All you need to do is visit humansoutside.com/challenge. Don't get left out. Go to humansoutside.com/challenge to learn more now. Okay, back to the show. So here at Humans Outside, we know that going outside works
Right.
too. And of course, we have a goal of building a daily outdoor habit to make space for this self care and make space for whatever else it is that happens outside when you go there. It all looks like self care to me in the big picture, but it may look different every day. And the beautiful thing about going outside for even just a little bit every single day is that every single day is a whole lot of time.
Yes.
So there's a lot of space for whatever's going to happen. It's literally every day.
Yes.
And over time that accumulates and start to see this preponderance and this collection of things that you've learned and experienced and had happen and felt and saw and all of that sort of piles up into this overwhelming in a lot of ways. I mean, if you really step back and like, how could I quantify this? Overwhelming mountain of awesomeness that is just layers on to who you are. But I would love to talk to you about what it is about going outside, if we can even articulate it, because sometimes I think we can't even articulate it, that is creating space for you in this that maybe a different kind of activity doesn't. So, some people, you said going to the gym is more like maintenance than self care. But if you've made the gym into your, I don't know, sacred space kind of place where you find that meditativeness, it could be the gym. But for us, it's outside. So, what is it about going outside and about the outdoors in general that creates this space for you and allows you to pursue this and allows other people who you've seen to pursue this?
Look, there's a lot of spirituality to some of these things. And, being on the Appalachian Trail last year and walking forever, and then just, being in a lot of social situations this year and hiking more with people and with organizations versus just doing so much solo stuff. It's a very spiritual thing for me. Again, just speaking for me, one of the biggest things is look, it just it keeps reminding me something way bigger than myself. There's something way greater than me out there. And I'm just a small piece to this. And it's just a draw. It's for doing it so long. It's a comfort level. There's no judgment outdoors. It's safe. People, again, misconstrue the wilderness versus being outdoors, nature, and in more controlled environments. If you're feeling unsafe, it doesn't have to be any specific way, but it's like anything else. You have to do it, and a lot of times it's what you've been exposed to and what you have available to you and around you. But it's one of those missing pieces in which I try to trail back what I said a minute ago. Yeah, I don't care what professional you go talk to around anything, around your health, whether it be mental, physical, or whatever, that's going to be up there. Start moving, go outside, do these things because the benefits are ridiculous and
Mm.
across the board. And again, for me, it's the combination of the spiritual that I talked about and how I feel being more connected with something out there. And it's not that I'm out there seeking it. It's just that I know it's there. It's just, again, maybe 2 years from now, you and I could talk and I've gone on some spiritual walk and kind of figured out where it's coming from. But that's not where I'm at right now. But, and then the physical, I can't stress enough that if you're not exerting yourself, you're not challenging yourself. And if you're not challenging yourself, you're losing a lot of the connection that you'd be able to get. Because when you put yourself in, especially when you go on a trail, that's why promote the hiking and doing a little bit of it solo, learning how to do that if you can, is because it's the best place, safest place, the place that is so big and there's so many options that you can go again, deplete your tank because the
Mhm.
work doesn't start until you deplete the tank, just like going to work out. People are under hey, let's go do 12 reps, and then the 12th rep, it starts getting a little difficult and they've done their 12 reps. You talk to any serious person that, around the body and things like that, and whether it's a bodybuilder or a coach or your doctor, whatever, you don't build anything unless you continue with the resistance. The work starts at 12, you know, and it's just like going outside and doing things like that. You've got to break yourself down to allow yourself to get the bigger benefits from it.
The thing I love about this word challenge, and you said you have to challenge yourself, is that it's so individual.
Mhm.
So for me, a challenge looks much different today, all this time on from going outside every day, than it did for me when I started doing this.
Absolutely.
It's a much, much different kind of thing. When I started doing this, 20 minutes a day sounded like a challenge.
Exactly.
And now it happens almost without thinking, almost every day. There are some days in the coldest part of the winter where that is still a challenge, but the rest of the time it just happens. But that is my challenge. It doesn't have to be anyone else's challenge. I suggest 20 minutes because it's a pretty good amount of time. There's some science to back it up. And it feels like it's enough time to make it like an effort, but not enough time to make it super big burden.
Right.
It's enough time to make putting on all the clothes that you have to do sometimes when the weather's real bad or finding your rain jacket worth it, but not enough time that it really puts a major hitch in your day. So that's why we pick 20 minutes, but it doesn't have to be. A challenge is whatever to you is just that little tiny step outside whatever your comfort zone is right now. And if your challenge is spending time on your porch every day, awesome.
Right.
Go for it. If your challenge is taking a long hike, because you've done short hikes, now long hike is the next thing, go for it. But it doesn't have to be anything that you and I are telling
Mm,
people. It's so individualized and there are no rules about it. It's just what is out there, what speaks to you, what do you want to seek, and taking that time, that self-care that you're talking about to understand what that is and then go for it.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, the other piece of that is I'm not into comfort. I don't seek comfort right now. I'm very minimal. A lot of people misconstrue being minimal as shying away from money or doing specific things. I'm just not a consumer right now. And so a lot of my growth has come from not seeking comfort. So
Mhm.
if the weather turns somewhere and I'm out, I'm on, national forest land 14 miles back from the nearest road, and I don't have the gear that would make me be more comfortable, or I've run out of propane for my heater or anything like that. I've learned and evolved into not putting myself in dangerous situations, but I'm not going to allow things to, because it's not comfortable, to take me
Right.
out of that situation. So if people are traveling or for work, or the weather does something changes, if it's raining or whatever, go outside anyways. You're just gonna get wet.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, we've been talking about what we find when we're out there. Can you give 3 or 4 just really practical steps for finding self-worth and pursuing that self-care and creating that space through outdoor experiences?
Yeah, I think first of all, in starting the whole process is again taking the pressure off of yourself as much as
Mm.
I'm gonna get out there, take baby steps. It's okay to look if you're not familiar with a lot of it, you're not familiar with walking long periods, you're doing things like that. You don't need to do that, like you were talking about the stress. And I think that's very important to set that up. You can't do anything unless you do something. And to do something, you have to maybe break it down to bite-sized pieces. So take a short walk. Just have goals. Do that for a week and move on and on. Again, I think it's allowing yourself to listen to yourself. And you can only do that when you're in places that the noise isn't there anymore. And that's when you can really start understanding what is important to you, what's not important to you, what's really bothering you. And sometimes you're going to be very uncomfortable and things like that. But again, I think it's just a big part of the process. Look, all of your senses, when you go outdoors and do those things, and you put yourself in that environment, again, whether you're meditating or you want to do the forest bathing and just go to look at a tree for an hour, what you're doing is you're igniting all those things that are dead now. Your sight,
Mhm.
your vision, all of our senses, the smell, the taste, everything is different.
It's all tied together. That's the problem or
Yeah.
the benefit.
It's just doing, I mean, again, I can't, there's so many excuses for it. I mean, I guess we can address, go through the list of excuses, but none of it really doesn't matter. You have to take the initiative and do it. And it's not working for you
Yeah.
now. You're looking for something now. You're either unhealthy this way or that way. People are not seeking how to be better if they're better. And you have to put yourself in those spaces, create that space for you, like you were talking about, so that you can, again, figure out what that is. And maybe figuring out what that is just making your gym space out on your back patio versus it being in the house. Who knows what it is? But
Right.
what happens is all the stagnation and just all of that. I just go figure out what that is for you. It's just like if you want to know something, Google it. So if you want to know about the outdoors, you're gonna have to go outside. You're gonna have to go do it. And you're gonna have to
Yeah.
see, look, what are you attracted to? You can make a list. Look, journaling is very important. Again, I promote the journalism for everything. So if you want to understand about, write, journal about it. Try to connect the dots. Or do you like water? Are you attracted to water? Does it make you feel good?
Mhm.
Does it make calm you down? All of these things like that. And then that's what you do. Maybe, maybe get a kayak or maybe get a paddleboard or anything and just, try it.
Yeah.
Try it. Just go, go, go.
Well, so much of your advice is in your book, Friendly Reminders, and presented as just little tidbits
Yes.
and information about self care, and so people can look to your new book, Friendly Reminders, for that. They can also listen to your podcast, Self Care Savage, and we're just so grateful that you joined us today. We close out our episodes listening to our guests tell us about one of their favorite outdoor moments, somewhere that you just close your eyes and you're back there and you can visualize it. And it's this visceral, heartwarming, or inspiring experience. And we would just be so honored if you would share that with us.
If you want to take one moment that probably will never get recreated, but it's something that happened that is one of the most amazing things for me was on the Appalachian Trail last year. I was probably 6 weeks in of being on trail already, and I stayed on trail most of the time, but I started getting a couple of text messages. They were like, "Hey, there's a couple of guys looking for you on trail." And I'm like, "Well, what are they looking for me for?" And they're like, "They brought hamburgers for you." So these were 2 kids. When I say kids, 19, I think 19, 20, 21. They were coming from Florida. They were heading to Ohio, and they were for summer camp count. They were going to be summer camp counselor, but they were the one that wasn't driving was flipping through Instagram, and they came across one of my posts. And I had on the trail on the Appalachian Trail, I posted every single day about the trail and did a friendly reminder. But one of the things I was after about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I was losing a lot of weight and I was doing a little whining. Hey, trying to keep this weight on. I really want hamburgers, just all this kind of stuff. So, and then they went through my stuff and they kind of connected with everything. And they were like, we need to go find him. We need to take a stop and go find him. So these boys went to Walmart, bought all this stuff. They bought a little cook stove, pans. They bought all the hamburger, fresh stuff. So I started getting these messages, and they were showing her by my picture. So when you get on trail for a while, you start getting known by your trail name. So my trail name that was given to me was Rooster. So so they they kept going around and they'd show it to people, and people go, "Oh yeah, well, we saw Rooster yesterday," or "He was past us over here." So these and look, I never posted where I was at, exactly. But these kids are
Right.
smart. They went back and they looked at everything, and they realized I made a post that, "Hey, I hit the 400-mile mark a couple of days before," or something. So they tried to calculate where I was the best they could. And these kids are in sandals. I'm trying to set this up how amazing this was for me. They were in sandals. Anyways, they not only got all the hamburger stuff, all the fresh stuff, all the makings, everything. They got a watermelon, they got strawberries, they got fudge. They did all this stuff to make this stuff. So these guys, I get a text, and one of the first one I got was, "Hey, the watermelon boys are looking for you." So they were anointed very quickly, the watermelon boys, because they were carrying a watermelon in sandals
That's so
on
much.
trail looking for this gooberhead rooster. It ended up being something like 13 hours these boys walked. And I don't even remember how far. It was quite a ways. But by the time they found me, it was dusk. I was in this campsite. There was other campers around. It was a bear area. So and they had all this food, but here's one of the things that came out of it. They had to start shedding some of this weight. And so what the great thing was, there's things called trail magic. It usually comes from people, it's from trail angels who set up and, give people food at a trailhead or things like that and kind of gift things, and which helps the morale of somebody on trail a long time too. Well, they had to gift the watermelon to a group of people at a shelter. That's where they got anointed the watermelon boys. But that's amazing. I mean, these for a gift of a watermelon to be for a bunch of hikers that are probably hungry and they're at a shelter is like, oh my God. Then they gave fudge away. They had to give the fudge away and the strawberries. All these things as they're going down the line trying to find me, they're having to give away. But by the time they find me, they still have all this other stuff. It was incredible just going through this. And after them going through all this, they have nothing but these amazing smiles on their face. And I'm, like, worried about the food. I'm like, "Look, guys, we gotta get this hung in the tree, because this is, it's raw meat." But this one boy's his family were missionaries, so they lived in Africa quite a bit. He's like, "No problem." He says, "Where do I need to hang it up?" And he just shimmied up the tree like it was nothing, just like it was absolutely nothing. And so it's all these little things, but nothing was a problem. They were hungry. They didn't bring anything other than this. We couldn't cook it because, again, it was too late. Other campers were around, things like that. So we had to get everything sorted. I gave them my food bag and said, "You guys eat whatever you need to." And then we bedded them down. And then the next morning we got up and we went down about 2 or 3 miles down trail, and we set up at this great little opening, and they literally set up and made at 8 o'clock in the morning by the time we got there, made me on the Appalachian Trail in the middle of nowhere. They made me bacon cheeseburgers with everything on it. These boys made like 3 or 4 other people hamburgers as well at 8 o'clock in the morning on Appalachian Trail. And it was just amazing for somebody to do something like that for me. And it was all connected to everything that we're talking about. And it not just being about me, it ended up being about everybody. So, anyways, that is the best story that I ever have. It's not probably exactly like, what moment I go back to, but that's a memory that
Yeah.
I always go back to.
And I love that your memory is the humans part
Mm,
of being a human who's outside.
yeah.
because that's what we're talking about. So, Scott,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for joining us today
Yes.
on Humans
Thanks for
Outside.
having
I
me.
so appreciate your time and your insight and everything you've offered us today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of Humans Outside. But hey, I need your help. Enjoy this show? Leave a 5-star rating or review or both wherever you get your podcasts. It makes me feel good, but it also helps others find the show too. Now, go get outside. Until next time, we'll see you out there.